Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Weaver, and today my team and I are going to walk you through why we believe Chick-fil-A should expand to Germany. Chick-fil-A, originally founded in 1946 by Truett Cathy in Hateville, Georgia, was once called Dwarf Grill and later called Dwarf House, as you can see pictured here in the top left-hand corner of the slide. From there, they expanded across 48 states and territories, encompassing 2,679 different locations. As a group, we began to wonder why all these locations are within the United States, and we have not seen any of them on any of our international travels. We researched further to realize that within the UK, they did expand to one location, but it was forced to close its doors due to cultural differences. In 2017, they also attempted a pop up in Ireland, but nothing really came after that. They've tried for years to expand into Canada, but we haven't really seen any progress there either, and we believe this all stems back to their corporate purpose. As you can see in the middle of the screen, it's a very strong Christian statement. This is going to require a culture that's accepting of this strong stance, similar to the one in the US. As a group, we believe Germany would be the best fit. But before we look at the cultural and financial side, we must explain why we chose Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A was a favorite for all of us growing up. It was something that was on every street corner that we frequented as children. But deeper than that, we wanted to see if Chick-fil-A would have a chance to survive within the German economy because KFC is already present. As we know in China, KFC already has a stronghold in the market. In China, there's really no room for any additional fast food chicken restaurants. So we wanted to see if the same thing was true in Germany. To speak more about the market and the economy, I'm going to turn it over to Cameron.
Thanks, Amanda. Hello, my name is Cameron Queen, and I'll be going through the current economic situation in Germany. To start, the current economic situation in Germany is good. They are the largest economy in Europe and the fourth largest in the world. The economy is primarily based on the export of high-quality manufactured goods. Germany maintains a high trade surplus because it is such a large exporter of these manufactured goods. Because of this high trade surplus, Germany are less likely to be affected by a major financial downturn. Germany is ranked the 27th freest economy globally and remains the most influential country politically and economically in Europe. The main challenge Germany and all economies around the world are facing is recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. The German economy has contracted 6% due to COVID-19. Luckily, the manufacturing sector was not affected by the restrictions of COVID-19, but demand has been limited worldwide. Schwarz Null, essentially known as Germany's zero debt policy, was suspended due to the pandemic. What this means is Germany's account balance and trade surplus will shrink significantly and could affect inflation levels. One of the main risks prior to the pandemic is Germany's declining birth rate. In the long run, this will pose a challenge to Germany's economic development. This is a recurring theme in highly developed countries where people have invested so much time into their professional careers that they pass on the opportunity to have a child. 1 in 5 women in Germany have no children at all. Moving on to inflation. Inflation levels are suffering from COVID lockdowns. The consumer price inflation rose from negative 0.7% to 1.6% between December 2020 and January 2021. This is the fastest it has grown in many years. From May 2016 to June 2020, inflation remained positive, ranging from a low of 0.2% up to 2.3%. ING, a financial services group, believes the German inflation rate will exceed 2% this year, and the rest of the Eurozone may follow. The consumer price index for food is 2.2%, indicating rising prices for this industry. Moving to the next slide. Being a part of the Eurozone means Germany uses the euro as their official currency. The euro is one of the strongest currencies in the world and is stronger than the US dollar. It is the world's second biggest reserve currency behind the US dollar. As of April 2021, $1 US equals 0.83 euro and 1 euro equals $1.21. Currency devaluation is not a huge risk for Germany as long as inflation is kept under control. The euro will maintain its strength. Moving on to bribery and corruption. Germany does not suffer from high levels of bribery and corruption. They consistently rank near the top of Transparency International's corruption index. In 2020, Germany ranked 9th out of 180 countries. Political parties are the biggest worry in Germany, and there's been criticism around the issue of political party financing. However, Germany's strong institutional setup has ensured integrity in their government and businesses around the country. Corruption is not an obstacle for existing companies and businesses that are looking to enter the German market. It is illegal in Germany to offer, pay, or accept a bribe. Now I'll give it to Austin to talk about government stability.
Thank you, Cameron. Hello, my name is Austin Loggins. Today I'll be talking about the government stability of Germany. Their authority and structure is based on their common law, which was started in the 1980s when they separated from the communist bloc. They have similar elements that mirror the United States, as it consists of 598 members and keeps a checks and balance system so that one branch does not have more power over the other. An example is that if a branch presents a bill, the other branches can veto that bill by simple majority if they need to. Moving along to the political system, they are a democratic federal parliamentary republic. They have 16 states that can either vote for a district representative or a political party, which there are 6 different parties. They do have a president that's elected every 5 years, and as they do hold some power like vetoing laws and appointing a chancellor who then selects a cabinet, it is used as a more ceremonial position. Now, on the risk side of things, like I said before, they have 6 parties. And the 3 largest of these are the Christian Democratic Union, the Christian Social Union, and the Social Democratic Party of Germany. However, though, the CDU and the SPD have had recent chancellors resign during their term. And as they struggle to find new leadership, elections are being held in the middle of term. And because of this, people are starting to vote for the smaller parties as they do not feel properly represented. I will now pass it on to Maddie to talk more in depth about the Bundestag and the Bundesrat.
Thank you, Austin. My name is Maddie Zwill, and I will be discussing the differences between the Bundestag and the Bundesrat. So the Bundestag is Germany's parliament and represents the voices of the federal government. The Bundestag is made up of at least 598 members, half of which are going to be voted in directly by the public, and the other half are given seats based on the votes submitted for each political party. The Bundesrat is regulated by the 16 German states, as Austin mentioned earlier, and it is composed of 69 members who have a say in all legislative matters. Moving on, I will be taking us through some of the demographics of Germany. So the German population is made up of about 84 million people and is growing at a steady rate of 0.32% per year. The graph here shows the fertility rate from around 1955 to 2020. On this graph, we can see that the fertility rate in 1965 was relatively high at 2.5 births per woman, which then had a drastic decline from 1970 to about 1995. In the year 2000, we can see that the fertility rate started to rise steadily again, where it is now at 1.6 births per woman. Moving on, the average life expectancy in Germany ranges anywhere from 79 to 85 years of age. The average life expectancy for men is anywhere from 79 to 80 years old, while women are likely to live a little bit longer, anywhere from 84 to 85 years of age. In this chart, you can see that the population is broken down by age group. So the age group of 40 to 59-year-olds consists of the largest portion of the population at around 23%, while ages 1 to 24 only make up around 19% of the overall total. This means that the population in Germany is mostly composed of people who are ages 25 and up. And from this, we can kind of predict that the population level will see a decrease in about 20 to 40 years because the majority of the population will meet that average life expectancy. Moving on to the urban and rural population. In this graph, we can see that 75% of the German population tend to reside in urban areas, while only 25% reside in rural ones. Since 1955, we can see that there's been a growth of about 15% in the urban population, while the rural population has seen a slight decrease. And from this, we can depict that as population increases, people are choosing to migrate to urban areas over rural ones. Jumping into written and oral communication, the official language for Germany is German, and I'm going to break this down into both verbal and nonverbal communication. So regarding verbal communication, Germans tend to come off as very blunt and straightforward, and they typically only speak when they've thought through their opinions thoroughly. They also just prefer direct communication and tend to take things very literally. Moving on to nonverbal communication, the most crucial aspect of that is eye contact, which represents honesty and confidence. Personal space is also another important aspect in Germany, and people tend to stand closer to those that they are more familiar with and give a little bit more space to people they're not so familiar with. Men also try to give women a little bit more space just to be respectful. As for greetings, handshakes with eye contact tend to be the most popular form of greeting between two people, and more friendlier greetings can consist of a hug or a kiss on the cheek. The most popular spoken greetings are Guten Tag, which means good day, and Hallo, which means hello in German. Formal greetings are a big aspect of the German business culture, and this is done by referring to someone as Mr. or Miss and following that by that individual's last name, similarly to what we do here in the States. Jumping into written communication, I will be discussing contracts, scheduled appointments, and thank you cards. So contracts are a major part of the business world in Germany, and once written out and signed, that contract is binding, and everything that was discussed between the parties that was written out is essentially guaranteed. As for scheduled appointments, they are typically written out in German. And for thank you cards, they are critical for showing gratitude after having a meeting with someone over a meal such as lunch or dinner. A handwritten thank you card shows that that individual can take the time out of their day and write a sincere card instead of purchasing a pre-made one or just sending a thank you email. I'm now going to hand it over to Amanda, where she'll be discussing our Hofstede's model.
Thank you so much, Maddie. As you can see here, pictured on the left-hand side of the screen, Germany has a low power distance score. So this means they treat their bosses like their friends, not a superior figure that they cannot approach with any questions or concerns. They also are very focused on the individual, as we are in the United States, meaning that they are very direct, as Maddie just mentioned. They abide by things such as honesty is the best policy, and they are loyal to those who they form friendships with, not the group as a whole out of obligation. They're also a very masculine culture, as we are in the United States, where everything is a competition. And we'll see how this benefits us in just a moment. Additionally, they have a high uncertainty avoidance. So this means they really despise risk. In order to mitigate that, they rely on logic and fact, and they really want to make a very educated decision. So they ask their superiors before proceeding with anything that could involve risk. Their orientation is more long-term, meaning that they want to focus on the end goal. They delay that gratification, unlike we tend to do in the United States. This pairs nicely with their low indulgence score, which means they'd rather work than play. And this all benefits the Chick-fil-A model, as we'll see here. From the franchisee perspective, they are going to have a very friendship type dynamic. It's going to be very open and they can ask any questions. And this is going to be a huge positive for them as we set up the franchise. Additionally, they may struggle with the team atmosphere in the beginning just because they're more focused on the individual. But once they befriend those around them, it will not be an issue. Their masculine nature will drive them to want to win, so to speak. So in our case, this will mean driving the revenues higher, which is our ultimate goal in order to be successful. Their long-term orientation paired with their low indulgence score will help get the franchise off the ground. That being said, when or if the concept is not accepted right off the bat, they'll give that extra push to make sure it is successful. As I previously mentioned, Germans do not like risk, so that positive relationship they'll have with the franchisee as more of a friend type figure will help mitigate some of that. That being said, it's important that we also look at the business environment that they would be entering and see what opportunities we have for growth. From the business side, they will face several tariffs and taxes as a result of entering this international market. Due to treaties that Germany has signed with about 90 different countries, they will be subject to some double taxation. These all sound like negative things, but on the flip side, they will receive several tax benefits because Germany does not discriminate between an international investor and a domestic investor. So all of these will help offset some of those taxes. Germany is currently looking for people to expand within their business environment. Because of Brexit, those numbers have recently decreased. Overall, this looks like a great opportunity for Chick-fil-A because they have the largest population in the EU, which means more customers, and their second largest sector is tourism, meaning even more customers. Overall, their food industry ranked rather high on the profitability scale, so this looks like a fantastic opportunity. To talk a little bit more about the income that would be supplied in order to fund the purchase of any of our products, I'm going to turn it over to Austin.
Thank you, Amanda. So the income in Germany is measured by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The average household makes about 28,000 euros per capita or 35,000 USD. This is also considerably higher than the OECD average, which is a very good benefit. However, though, there is major problems that exist. There's an extreme wage gap between the rich and the poor, as the top 20% makes 5 times as much as the bottom 20%. This is due because of tax policies, as poor households face higher indirect taxes. So the rich make a net of 3,500 euros a month, while the poor make less than 1,000 euros a month after taxes. However, though, since the average income is higher than the OECD average and that Chick-fil-A has very reasonable prices, we feel that Chick-fil-A products will be more attainable by a large group of people. This illustration represents the wage gap between the rich and the poor. Moving along here to the imports and exports, Germany is very successful in this scene because they have very high competitive advantages and affordable mass production. They import materials such as machinery, metals, vehicles, agricultural products, oil and gas, and export materials such as machinery, vehicles, chemicals, and household equipment. Their leading import and export are cars, as imports equate to 63 billion euros alone on cars, and exports nearly doubles that at 122 million. They also cooperate with countries such as China, the Netherlands, France, the United States, Poland, and the United Kingdom. I will now pass it on to Cameron to talk about market growth.
Thanks. So the German fast food market, also known as the quick service restaurant industry, is the most popular sector in the food industry. It accounts for 60% of the entire food industry. Fast food is cheap and extremely diverse in Germany. Because of the many different cultures in Germany, this has led to diversity within the industry being strong. This market is very popular and many options are available through well-known chain restaurants, street vendors, and local cuisine restaurants. The average growth rate of the industry was around 3.5% from 2014 to 2019 and is expected to have a compounded annual growth of 2.33% between 2020 and 2025. Given that the industry is expected to continue its growth, Chick-fil-A has the perfect opportunity to enter this market. I'll give it back to Austin to talk about the main competitors.
Thank you, Cameron. When talking about the main competitors, similar to that of the United States, McDonald's and Burger King are dominating the German market. However, though, local restaurants and cuisine are on the rise as places like Nordsee and Hansa-Glück are continually growing. There are smaller places such as bakeries, snack shops, and vendors on the street selling popular German foods. The one thing to look at, though, is the chain of Wienerwald. Similar to that at KFC, they specialize in chicken. However, though, they are on the smaller side, so this paves the way for an opening for Chick-fil-A to provide a high quality chicken option to the German fast food realm. I will now pass it on to Maddie to talk about market entry.
All right, thank you, Austin. So the market entry strategy that we chose was the international market entry strategy because of the low pressure for cost reductions and the low pressure for local responsiveness. Chick-fil-A maintains high standards for a quality product as well as high customer satisfaction goals, which people are willing to pay for, and which is why there's going to be a low pressure for cost reduction. Chick-fil-A will have a low pressure for local responsiveness because there is not much competition in Germany for fast food restaurants specializing in chicken. That being said, the competition is not non-existent, and if they do want to succeed, they will have to compromise in some ways, such as adjusting their menu slightly to entice that new target market and to accommodate those local tastes. Moving on, in this graph, we can kind of see that the top 5 restaurants in Germany right now are McDonald's, Burger King, Nordsee, Subway, and Pizza Hut, none of which specialize in chicken as their main menu item. The only 2 restaurants that do specialize in chicken on this graph are KFC and Wienerwald that Austin mentioned earlier. And these restaurants place 6 and 12 on this graph and only make up a total of 6% of the total, while McDonald's alone has 32%. Moving on to market entry mode, the mode that we chose to bring Chick-fil-A to Germany is through franchising. Chick-fil-A is selective with who they choose to do business with, and their main goal is to serve that community that they're a part of. They do want to go into business with people who are hands-on and have a good character, as well as people that are willing to work as a team, have entrepreneurial spirit, and want to grow both the business that they're a part of and themselves as individuals. Chick-fil-A does offer licensing opportunities for universities, airports, hospitals, and corporate buildings as well. A key aspect of franchising is that franchisors insist on having strict rules that the franchisee must abide by, and Chick-fil-A is no different. Chick-fil-A does have the high quality and customer service standards, and having these rules in place will help maintain their image. It'll also help them control their menu, cooking methods, staffing policies, and design and location as well. Chick-fil-A will also organize the supply chain and provide training for the operator, management, and the staff at these franchise locations. Chick-fil-A also assumes a lot of the financial risk associated with opening a new franchise location, but their royalties are a little bit above average at 15%, and they also take 50% of all profits. This being said, franchising in Germany has proven to be a lucrative business, and as of 2019, there were over 170,000 franchises total, equating to about 129 billion euros. Foreign franchisors such as McDonald's, Burger King, and KFC have all been successful in Germany, and American companies make up about 15 to 17% of the German franchise industry alone. This is all thanks to the relative ease of franchising in Germany. Franchising is regulated by the German Civil Code as well as the German Commercial Code, and in many studies have shown that there is no need for an extra franchise legislation that's not a part of these two. Moving on, Amanda will now discuss Chick-fil-A's differentiation strategy.
Thank you, Maddie. So every restaurant needs their secret sauce in order to be successful. For Chick-fil-A, it's the chicken sandwich. The recipe has hardly changed since 1964 when it was first originated, and there's several factors that help support this differentiator. So we have the food quality that's higher than most other fast food restaurants, their cleanliness, their speed of service, their customer service, and all the other factors you see in this graphic right here. As you can see, Chick-fil-A ranks at the top of all of these categories. In addition, everything else we see on the screen are things that Chick-fil-A does extremely well. These things set them apart from any of their competition and give them the opportunity to be more profitable. That being said, we hope that we can continue these things as we transition into the German market and become a successful franchise there as well. Overall, we have to make a decision, and what that final verdict is will be supported by the following slides. First, we're going to start off with the sales and marketing strategy, and I'm going to turn it over to Cameron to do that.
Thanks. The Chick-fil-A sales and marketing strategy in Germany will be similar to that of Chick-fil-A in the United States. One of the changes we will make is to its menu. While the menu should stay the same for the most part, given strict franchise rules and the desire to keep the essence of Chick-fil-A, it will need to be tailored to Germans' tastes in order to be locally responsive. Marketing approaches are different in Germany versus the U.S. In Germany, the marketing message focus on the product features with a neutral tone. They tend to be formal and aim to inform and not start a conversation. German ads focus on information and details. There must be sufficient information on an ad in Germany for it to be effective. Chick-fil-A can still use many of the traditional means of advertising. This would include billboards, television ads, sponsorships, and regular print ads. If Chick-fil-A is advertising a new location through the use of billboards, TV ads, or print ads, there should be enough information to attract the consumer to the location and inform them of where it is. This means push strategies will be most effective to spread the word, and then they will switch to pull strategies once Chick-fil-A gains name recognition in the region. As of January 2019, the top 5 most active social media platforms in Germany were YouTube, WhatsApp, Facebook, Facebook Messenger, and Instagram. As of 2020, Pinterest was also added to the mix of the top 5. Using these platforms to advertise products and link to Chick-fil-A's website would be highly beneficial. Chick-fil-A already has experience advertising on these platforms and would just need to create new accounts specific for Germany. The German Chick-fil-A's marketing mix will differ from that of the United States. Chick-fil-A must first focus on product adoption, making sure the product is targeted correctly and becomes popular in Germany. This is critical to Chick-fil-A's success in Germany. Through the use of advertisements, tailoring the product to Germany, and producing quality food, Chick-fil-A has the means to make the product adoption process go smoothly. Chick-fil-A's communication strategy should focus on advertising, mass media, and social media. Further, there will be a cultural barrier to their communication strategy. Therefore, it will have to be specific to Germany. Again, Chick-fil-A will need to be mindful of what it takes to advertise in Germany. There should always be sufficient information in the ads. If there is not, Germans may see this as trivial, simple-minded, or deceptively reticent. To determine their pricing strategy in Germany, that process must focus on selecting the price objective, determining demand, estimating cost, analyzing competitors' costs and prices, setting the pricing method, and final price. This means they need to hold their ground in relation to their typical margins, yet given their need to establish themselves in a new market, they may want to offer German-influenced products. Contribution pricing will come into play as they provide discounts or free items to gain traction. They need to investigate which items are the most feasible to use for these promotions. Therefore, Chick-fil-A's overall pricing strategy will be a balance between the contribution model and entering a new market. Moving on to the supply chain. In the US, Chick-fil-A has opened a distribution center which has been successful. This is something they should consider opening in Germany if they gain a foothold in the German market. However, currently, that is not really feasible considering they're just entering the German market. Chick-fil-A takes great care in how they get and prepare their food. In the United States, much of their produce and chicken comes from farms located across the country. Chick-fil-A would likely have to source their produce from Spain and Italy to assist with upstream operations. Both countries are the biggest producers in Europe and yield 42% of European crop. Poland, France, and the Netherlands are next, and due to their geographic location in relation to Germany, those countries would also be likely sources. Chick-fil-A has a certain standard they follow with chicken. They serve real, boneless breast of chicken that has never been ground or separated. The chicken they source has no fillers, steroids, or hormones and follows a no antibiotics ever policy since 2019. It may be a challenge to find quality sources of chicken, but these standards can still be found across Europe. Luckily, Europe is one of the world's largest poultry producers. France and Germany are both large producers of chicken, so it would be possible to source their chicken domestically. Potatoes are another key ingredient needed to support Chick-fil-A's menu. Potatoes will not be difficult to source given Germany is the largest producer of potatoes in Western Europe and the 7th largest in the world. Now I'll give it to Amanda to talk about the pro forma income statement.
Thank you so much, Cameron. So as we wrap this up, it's important to look at the financials. As you can see here, here's a 3-year projected pro forma income statement. In order to wrap our brains around how we arrived at this point, I'm going to look at it year by year. Beginning with 2021, we can see that there's an initial investment of $1.5 million to get the franchise up and running. Austin will touch on this in just a moment. But as far as how we created all the other numbers, we needed a source that had a public financial statement. We chose McDonald's because it was also popular in the region. In order to get to these numbers, we compared the McDonald's financials in Germany to the McDonald's financials in the United States, figured out what the ratios were for their cost of goods sold and things of that nature, and scaled them accordingly in relevance to the $4 million projected revenue for a Chick-fil-A location in the United States, as that would ultimately be our goal in Germany as well. From there, we increased everything by 20% year over year to arrive at the 2022 financials. This will cover any costs that we did not suspect and also any increases in inflation or governmental changes. The goal ultimately was to arrive at that $4 million in revenue by the end of 2023. As you can see here, we're at 4.3 million, which is right on target. And we believe this is feasible given the timeline. Additionally, all the ratios that we have are on target or above where we want to be, which is ideal when we're entering into a new market in order to make sure that this is a healthy set of financials. Now I'm going to turn it over to Austin to explain a little bit more about how we plan to finance the franchise and where that $1.5 million came from.
Thank you, Amanda. And when talking about how to finance the franchise, I'm going to run down how to open up one in the United States to give an idea. So there is an initial franchise fee of 10,000 USD, and any other new location requires an additional fee of 5,000. Opening inventory, the lease of location and equipment would range out to be $20,000 to $130,000, and any additional costs to accommodate for any unforeseen circumstances would range between $552,000 to $1.8 million. This in total all equates to $582,000 to $2 million. If we adjust this for Germany in euros, it would be 489,000 euros to 1.7 euros. As Amanda mentioned earlier, this is where it comes with the 1.5. We feel like the $1.5 million we feel will compensate for any tariffs or licensing problems that may come up with when we're transitioning to an international expansion. Moving along here to the human resource strategy, we feel like the best strategy would be the info-centric strategy as it yields the best chance of success. We will pair this a little bit with the polycentric view as our franchisee will be a German citizen. What this entails is that the any high-level manager and executive positions will be filled by United States representatives. However, though, any day-to-day positions like a cook or a team member will be held by German locals. This is all to take in consideration that the United States is very popular and very successful in the United States. So we want to bring that over. The advantage to this is that there will be a good grasp of what needs to be done. Also, the United States representatives will have a good experience and understand the ideals and success of the company. However, though, this may cause some tension with some German locals as they may feel like there's a lack of trust there. However, we do feel this will, in the end, we think this will give a strong sense of guidance to build off the success that the United States has had. I will now pass it over to Maddie to talk about the coronavirus impact.
Thank you, Austin. So diving into the coronavirus impact on expansion, the research we found was extremely surprising. So although we saw a drastic decrease in sales across the restaurant industry, when it comes to expansion, the coronavirus didn't seem to create any major outstanding problems. So expansion times remained relatively constant, and if there was a delay, it was very minimal. And many companies explained that COVID has actually helped speed up international expansion because of the increase in use of technology. So for example, if a business wanted to get something notarized, they would have to do so in person. This was no longer the case because COVID made it unsafe to do so. And along with other everyday tasks, they had to be moved online as well, which has sped up those normal day-to-day processes. COVID-19 has also forced many family-owned businesses in Germany to close their doors, which resulted in more room in the local economy for Chick-fil-A to expand, which is very beneficial for us during this time. That's all for me, so I'm gonna pass on to Amanda now to talk about the pros and cons moving forward.
Thank you so much, Maddie. As you can see here, there are so many pros to entering the German market. Although there are a few cons, such as inflation, government transitions, a possibility of criticism, these are things that we would see in any market, and they're not special to Germany or anything that would prohibit us from moving forward with the German investment. Overall, there may be some challenges that we'll have to overcome, but this seems like a great investment for Chick-fil-A and something that we should further investigate. Thank you so much for your time and willingness to watch our presentation.